Hi everybody, so today I'll show you how to add CRUD capabilities to your WordPress website without coding. Okay, so no-code CRUD using DaDaBIK. What is CRUD? CRUD stands for create, read, update, delete. These are the four operations, the four basic operations you can do on your database. I will show you also how to add auto-updatable chart and tabular reports to your WordPress website, again, without coding. Auto-updatable, it means that if you embed a chart, for example, that's not a screenshot, just a screenshot representing, the current, your current data. But if you change the data on your database, maybe using your CRUD capabilities, next time you open the page, the chart will reflect the new version of the data. Okay, auto-updatable. So this is our WordPress website. It's basically an empty website with just one test post. And here you can see the database related to this installation with all the WordPress tables. The WordPress version is the latest one, I guess it's 5.9.3, and the template is Neve. Okay, well, I call it Neve actually because I'm Italian and Neve is also an Italian word that means snow, but okay, that's another story. So what are we going to do? What is our goal? We will create a table contacts containing the information that people filling a contacts form in our WordPress website will submit. Okay, so we will create a table. We will embed in our WordPress website a contacts form. We will create a backend having all the CRUD capabilities on that table. And finally, we will create a dashboard containing some reports like tabular reports, maybe charts, with some useful statistics about the messages we received and the people who contact us. Okay, everything without coding. Okay, so please consider that this contacts table is just one example. Of course, with DaDaBIK, well, DaDaBIK is a general purpose tool. I mean, you can create any kind of table, of course, depending on the information you need, depending on your use case. You can create very complex applications actually that you can embed in your WordPress website. Why am I pointing out this? Because maybe you're thinking, okay, Eugenio, that's cool, but there are other plugins, WordPress plugins already that manage contacts form. Okay, that's right, but they only do that. Here we are talking again about a general purpose tool that you can use to represent any kind of information and manage any kind of information. So you want to represent your products, your customers, your suppliers, I don't know, your houses, maybe you are a real estate business, your movie or books collections, any kind of data. Okay, you want to extract some useful information and represent some knowledge using tabular or chart reports, you can do it without any coding. Okay, so WordPress is already installed. I think it's time to install DaDaBIK. So let me show how to do it. Here I am in the WordPress folder. I copied in the WordPress folder this file, this zip file that is a version, DaDaBIK version 11.5. This is the current version of DaDaBIK Enterprise. Okay, so this is the file you get when you download DaDaBIK. I copied it here. Now I'll unzip the file. I get this folder containing two other folders, the documentation and the program files. This is the folder I need, containing all the PHP files that compose DaDaBIK. Okay, so I copy this folder and I paste this folder in the WordPress folder. I can actually install DaDaBIK in other locations. It doesn't need to be inside the WordPress installation, but it is easier for me to show the installation like that for this tutorial. Okay, so program files, I rename it with just DaDaBIK, and this is my DaDaBIK application inside the WordPress folder. Before installing DaDaBIK, I need to fill the DaDaBIK configuration file with a few parameters. For example, the connection parameters to the database. It's a classic configuration file, very similar to, at least for the required parameters, very similar to the WordPress configuration file. Okay, I opened this configuration file in my text editor, and I have already set the required parameters and some optional parameters, and these are some other settings that for the moment are commented, but we will use later, so I already have them here. Let me explain, let me spend a few words for these parameters. Well, you have the serial number, you have the DBMS type, because you can use MySQL, but you can use other relational DBMS as well. Host, my DBMS, my MySQL server is on my local machine. Database name, username, and password to access. I've used a WP DaDaBIK CRUD for everything. Of course, it's not a secure choice, but this is just a test I'm doing on my local machine that I use for tests, so it's fine. And this is the database where also WordPress is installed. Okay, then I have to specify a secret key and a DaDaBIK session name. I should use some random and complicated strings. I just typed random characters for this test. Time zone, this is my time zone. Okay, and these are the required parameters. I added already a few not required parameters. One is the graphic theme, blue-gray. We have different themes, and this is prefixes to exclude. This is something I need to explain. So DaDaBIK can be installed in several ways. The classic installation works like that. You have a database, maybe with some tables already. You install DaDaBIK on that database, and DaDaBIK creates, first of all, a basic CRUD application on the top of the tables you have. Okay, trying to guess, according to the schema of your tables, the best options, like which field type to use and which validation and many other things that maybe we will see. But anyway, this is one of the possible installation, and this is probably the most popular one and the one we are going to use. However, since we are installing DaDaBIK in the WordPress database, and we don't want to use the WordPress tables in our DaDaBIK application, the one we are building, we set here as a prefix to exclude WP underscore. So all the WordPress tables will be ignored by DaDaBIK during the installation. Okay, so basically it's an empty database. And finally, I want to enable data tab operations. Basically here I allow the fact that from DaDaBIK I can alter the schema of my tables. I can add new table, create tables, drop tables, something like that. By default, these features are disabled. One means enable them. Okay. All right. So we can install DaDaBIK now. Let me copy here. And the address is this one, /DaDaBIK. Remember that we had a DaDaBIK folder inside the WordPress folder, install.php. Okay, requirement check. Build a new application based on WP DaDaBIK CRUD, classic installation. That's fine. I accept. Okay, cool. DaDaBIK is installed in the WordPress website. Database. So let's see the application we have so far. So by default, DaDaBIK creates 2 users, one admin user and one, let's say, normal standard user. The admin user is root with password Letizia. Okay, and this is the application that DaDaBIK created. It's empty because the database, excluding the WP tables, was empty. Okay, so we don't see much here. So the very first thing I want to do here is to create our first table. That contacts table we want to use to store the data about the people who contact us. To do that, this is one additional thing. This is the application, the front end of the application. So the application we are building. When you click on edit this app, you access, if you are an admin user, to the admin area where you can actually develop the application. Okay, and we will see what you can do here. But for the moment, we will go to the data page because we want to create some data structure, a contacts table. Okay, so create new table with name contacts, create. By default, an ID field has been added. I can delete the field, modify it, but it's fine for me. an ID primary key auto increment. I will add some additional field like first name. Sorry, before doing that, I want to change some settings. Data types simple, install and enable tables on creation. Yes, this makes things faster, at least for this tutorial. Let's go back here. We already have our context table. Add field, first name, and this is short text, and then last name short text, and then email short text. What else? Like birth date, date, and then I don't know, maybe country, short text, and message, the actual message that the user wants to send us. And this is long text. Okay, this is our table. Save, done. So the table is created. Maybe we can have a look at our database to see what changed. Okay, we have new tables. All the DaDaBIK tables, as you can see, all the DaDaBIK tables have a DaDaBIK prefix, and also the contacts table. Okay, so you can create the contacts table even outside DaDaBIK. You can use the tool you prefer. You can use PHPMyAdmin, you can use MySQL Workbench, or the terminal, whatever you prefer. But it's very convenient and fast to do it in DaDaBIK, in the data page of the admin area of DaDaBIK. Okay, so now we have our contacts table. Let's see if our application has changed. Still exactly the same. Why? You probably expected that since we created a table, you expected something here, like some again CRUD capabilities on that table. It's true, but we still need a little step. So since this setting was set to no, do you remember when we created the table? The context table is there, has been created, but is not installed in DaDaBIK. What does it mean? It means that the table is there, but DaDaBIK for the moment is ignoring that table. It's not part of our application. So we have to go here in Pages and install the table. After that, we need to set the permissions. So contacts table, admin, for each table or view or page in our application, we have to set the permission for each. We can set the permissions for each group. By default, we have two groups, two user groups, admin and default. We are an admin user, so let's set the permissions for admin. So table level, these are the operation you can do on a table. And these are the CRUD operations. So we have read, delete, edit, and create, plus two additional operations. Details, it means I can go and I can see the details of a record in a specific page, which is different respect to read. Maybe later I will show you how. And the export to CSV, that is considered a different permission. We said we say yes to all here, yes for all, save. And then, as you can see, the permissions in DaDaBIK are very granular. You can set the specific permission for a user group for each field of a table. Okay. There is also another mode that is more, simplified without this granularity. But for complex application, typically you need these granular permissions. Okay. So here we have all the fields, all the operations. I will set yes for everything. I won't go into the details. I'm just setting yes for all the fields. I just want to remove the permission for ID, because ID in our case is an auto increment primary key. We don't really need to see the ID in the insert form, but also in the other forms we probably don't need it. So for the moment, let's keep everything to no. Let's save. Okay, so now we can come back here and see that now we have an additional item in our menu, contacts. This is our table. This is the so-called quick search bar. We have all the fields, and we can search by these fields, and we have all the fields. Typically here maybe you put just 2 or 3 fields, because you also have the advanced search. Okay, but since we set yes to everything here, that's why we have all those fields over there. Maybe we can do no here for quick search and add the quick search just to first and last name. Okay, and that's it. We don't have data, so no items found. We can add something more. We can add some data. We can even import from Excel, from CSV. You can actually even install DaDaBIK starting from an Excel file, from a CSV file, but this is not something we will see in this tutorial. Okay, so, well, let me add some test, birth date. Okay, well, let me show you something. Let's try to fill this field with a wrong, not valid email. And we got an error. I wanted to show you that because I wanted to point out that DaDaBIK during the installation tries to guess which is the correct field type, field content to use for the CRUD forms. For example, here, since the field name was email, there is a rule in DaDaBIK that says, okay, if the field name contains the word email, then probably that field will contain, in that field, you want to store email addresses. So consider the content type as email and do validation and perform validation during the various operations. Okay, of course you can change it because maybe it's not true. It doesn't need to be a valid email, and we will see how to do it. Okay, but let's go back to a valid email, and okay. So we have a record now, and all the CRUD capabilities. So you can delete, you can see the details of a record, you can create a PDF starting from this record. You can edit the record, you can even edit from here. Actually, this is called live edit, and yeah. Okay, so this is our basic CRUD for this table. Okay, so now let's go back to our admin area, because I want to show you the two main pages you will use here when you develop a DaDaBIK application. One of them is the permissions page, which is something we have already discussed briefly. The other one is the form configurator. With the form configurator, you can decide for each field of a form how to represent the field, how to validate the field. You can move the field in the form. You can do many things. For each field, you have a lot of parameters, as you can see in the form configurator. These are the parameters you can work on, and on the right side you see the preview of your form. Okay, so I don't know if you want to change the label of first name, that by default is the name of the field. DaDaBIK just replaced the underscore with a blank space, but first name, you want to add something more, you can do it. And as you can see, the preview is immediately reflects your new settings. Okay, these are two very important parameters: field type and content type. So here you can have different field types. So you have a text box, a text area, rich editor, date time. You have drop-down menu, radio button, lookup fields, upload fields. You have quite a lot of options. For example, let's have a text area here, and as you can see now I have a text area. Okay. Content type instead tells DaDaBIK what kind of content you want to store. Is an email, for example, let's go to email. Email is a content type email. Why? Because, as I said, since the field name contained the word email, DaDaBIK guessed that the content type should be email. And this has an impact on the validation of the data, and also how the data is presented. For example, email is presented here as a mail to link. Okay, but if, for example, you change this to alphanumeric, then you will see just normal text. Okay. Well, then you have many other options that I don't have the time for. I mean, it's not the purpose of this tutorial to go through all these options. I just wanted to show you that you can customize very much your form. All right, so far we have created a basic CRUD application around just one table. Of course, we could have many tables, just one table, but the application is still a standalone application, is not integrated with WordPress. So now we will start the integration. Okay, the very first thing I want to do is, let's look at this create new. So this form, the that is going to become our context form needs to be embedded into a WordPress page. Okay. So the very first thing I want to do is allow, in terms of permissions, allow the public, not authenticated user to see and to use this form. Because by default, the whole DaDaBIK application is protected by a login page. But we don't want, our WordPress users, when they visit the contacts page, to, fill a login form. So we want to open this page to the general public. How to do that? Let's go back here. Okay, groups. I create a new group. So as I said, by default we have two groups. I create a new one. I call it public. Okay, the public group. All right, and I create a new user belonging to this public group. This user will be the user that a public, not authenticated user will be logged in with. Okay, maybe later I will rephrase this to explain it better. Let me finish here. I create a new user. I call it again WP DaDaBIK CRUD. I use always the same word to because it's easier for this test. Group public, and I crypt the password and put it here. Force password change, no. By default, when I create a new user, the user is forced to change the password at the next login. This is not the case for our example. Okay, so we created a WP DaDaBIK CRUD user belonging to the public user, the public group. Okay, now switching back to my configuration file, we need to tell DaDaBIK who is the public user. Let me explain this. So by default, this setting, username public user, is empty. Okay, that means that there's no public user. Everybody, if the authentication is enabled, everybody needs to log in to see the DaDaBIK application. But if I add something here, it means that you can access the application even without logging in, with the permissions you grant to this user. Okay? So if you access the DaDaBIK application without logging in, DaDaBIK will grant you the permissions that you as admin granted to this user. Okay? In our case, at least for the moment, we will grant to this user only the create permissions on the contacts table. And let's do it. So permissions, contacts table, group public, read no, delete no, edit no, create yes, detail CSV no. Okay, only create for the moment. Fields, only create yes for all on the create column except from ID. Okay, so now the public user can access the insert form of the context table. This is our first step. Second step, sorry, let me drink some water. The second step is we need to install the WordPress plugin into our WordPress installation. Okay, how can we do that? So let me check here. This is our DaDaBIK folder. Inside the DaDaBIK folder, we have a WordPress plugin folder containing this subfolder DaDaBIK wrapper. This is our plugin. So we copy this and we paste it into the plugins folder of WordPress. Okay, so we copied the plugin in the folder. These are the very simple installation instructions you will find in the plugin. So we did this. I forgot to do this. I have to open DaDaBIK wrapper and use and set these three parameters. Secret key and DaDaBIK session name must be the same I have in my DaDaBIK configuration file. So same one. Sorry. Side path is the side path of our DaDaBIK installation. That is WP DaDaBIK CRUD / DaDaBIK. Okay, so now I switch back to our WordPress and I activate the DaDaBIK wrapper plugin. Okay, plugin activated. How we can use it now? So activate, we did everything here. So now we just need to create a page in WordPress and add this simple code to embed a DaDaBIK application or just a page of a DaDaBIK application if you want in our WordPress website. More than a page, I would say an URL of a DaDaBIK application. Okay, let me copy this. Let's go back here and let's see. Let's see the. Okay, let me go back here and we create a new page. Add new. Add new and I call it contact us, and here I add the code I need. DaDaBIK wrapper URL equal to URL of your DaDaBIK application. In our case, we want to embed a specific page, this one. Okay, so I copy this and paste it here. All right, let's check here. Contact us page. Very good. Okay, now we have embedded at least a draft, the first draft of our contact form in our WordPress website. So from the graphical point of view, we can change a lot of things. For example, the logo. Each DaDaBIK application has its own logo. that by default is the DaDaBIK logo, but you can change it. If you embed, like in this case, a page into a WordPress website, probably you don't want a logo at all, because maybe you already have the logo in your main website. Okay, so what can you do? You can, let's go back here. One thing you can do is edit the header.php file of DaDaBIK containing the header that DaDaBIK uses for each page. So that file contains the HTML used by DaDaBIK for the header, but a very simple thing here would be this one. So logo img, I copied a 1x1 transparent image into the images file folder of DaDaBIK, and I use this file as logo. Okay, so basically if I reload this page, now we don't have any logo anymore. We also want to remove this, probably, because we don't need the login for this page. So to do that, this box that where is displayed the login, logout, and a few other controls we set to 0, and also, so DaDaBIK is available in many languages, as you can see. Again, probably we don't want for this particular case to have this menu here. So for example, let's say that we just need English, and this is the setting that we can use to do that. So languages are, here we can specify the list of languages that we want to include in that menu. If the list is just one element, the menu is not displayed. Okay, so again, if I refresh everything, okay, now it's better. You can change this, you can change this, you can remove multiple insert. That probably is not very useful in a context form. Let's do it. Show multiple insert, checkbox 0. And then you can also work on the CSS file of DaDaBIK to customize even more your form. But before going on, let's at least try if everything is working as expected. So test to email. Well, let's try to validate the email. So as you can see here, DaDaBIK is working, but apparently we are in the WordPress website. Okay, an email address you have inserted is not valid. Even this message, you can change it. Okay, good. We have filled and submitted our context form. Let's see here if we have the new record. Well, we can see it from here, and yes, we have it, but of course also from our DaDaBIK application. So what is happening here? I wanted to show you the context table in our backend, but apparently it's empty. Why? Because I'm using the same browser to, see the WordPress website and the DaDaBIK backend application. However, since I enabled that public user, when I visited this page, DaDaBIK automatically logged me in as public user that can only see this form. That's why. So it's easier if for the DaDaBIK backend application I use another browser. Okay, this makes things easier. Okay, we have these two records as expected. Okay, and maybe let me open the admin in another. Okay, in another tab to have everything already open. Okay, let me add another field so I can show you also something more. Data, contacts. I want to register the date time where I receive when the user submitted the form. So add field, date time submitted, and that's date and time. Okay, and let's say that it can be null because we already have two records without that date time value, so at least for those record will be null. Maybe then we can, you know, remove the records and change it back to nullable. No, because it's better. Okay, save change, form configurator, date time submitted. There is a specific field type for doing what I said. That is the insert date time. Insert date time is a field type that you can use when you want a datetime automatically, a datetime value like the current datetime value inserted in a field when a user insert a new item, a new record in a table. Okay, so insert date time, permission. We don't want to give any permission to the public user for that field, because basically we don't want to show that field in the insert form. This is something that must be hidden, and DaDaBIK will automatically set a value, but the admin users must see it in the backend. So yes, for everything, well, we can say create no, but anyway we want create records from the admin side, I guess, and quick search no. Okay, let's see if it is working. Let's add another. Okay. Okay, we have a new field, and as you can see, it has been registered the current date and time. So what I'm going to do now, two things. First one, I want to create a dashboard containing some reports with some interesting statistics about the data we have in our contacts table. I want to embed these statistics into a WordPress page. Second, I want to show you how to share the WordPress authentication with DaDaBIK. Basically, you can authenticate into WordPress and automatically authenticate in DaDaBIK as well, if you want. So for the first thing, we need more data for the statistics, I mean. We have just 3 records here, so I will stop the recording and I will add some fake data, some additional columns to the table. Maybe I will make, using the form configurator, the form a little bit better. And then when I'm done, I will be back here. Okay, here we go. So as you can see now, we have a lot of data, more than 300 records. I added some more fields. I improved the form. A few things I want to show you. This is something I did on the form configurator. So for example, here I changed the position of the fields, 2 fields on the same row. I added separators, so I created 4 different sections. The city, the country and the city now are a drop-down menu. So we have, and they are lookup fields. So I added 2 more tables, countries table and cities table. Let me check here. So I have a countries and cities table, and the countries I have here are the option I have here, basically. Okay, so if you change your table, adding some countries, I will see the new country here. Not only that, the same for city, but not only that, but I also set this field as a cascade field. So basically, according to the country, the list of cities will change. Okay, and I can do it everything from the form configurator. Of course, I need a field in my table. So in the cities table, I have a field ID country telling me in which country the city is. Okay. What else? Okay, I also added a radio button here. Is just an example. This radio button will appear together with the other fields. Let's have a look at the WordPress now. So this is our form that of course reflects our improvements. Well, I still have to change this sentence. Yes, I was talking about I accept terms here. That is a required field the user has to check, but it's a very simple field. Of course, I'm not covering the legal aspects like the privacy aspects here in this tutorial. Also because they change according to the law. So maybe you need to add a link to your privacy policy. Maybe you need to store a proof of the authorization you got. But again, I won't go into legal details here. Okay, so now we are ready to create some reports, some charts, and I will go back here to my application. And for example, since we have some random data with some for each record we have the date time of the contact, we can generate a chart, for example, a line chart, where we see for each month the number of messages we received. So we aggregate data by daytime contact, and in particular, well, daytime contains the actual date time, but we want to aggregate by month, so I choose month here, and for each month I want to show the number, so count, that's my aggregate function, count here, the number of messages I received. Maybe it's better to make it bigger, so 800 pixels. All right, so January, February, March, as you can see, we have our chart. What can we do now? We can, let me add something more. This is the way you can create a report very easily, simple report. So as you can see, point and click. If you want, you also have an advanced SQL report. In that case, you can write your own SQL query, okay? But we won't see that part in this tutorial. Now, this is the query, the report you generate on the fly. So based on the data you have, you can, if you want, embed this report somewhere in your backend. Maybe you want a page, you want to create a page where a dashboard, again, your home page, the home page of your backend application, where you want to see every day this report, for example, and maybe you want to embed that statistics also on your WordPress website, okay? So let's see how you can do that. So you click here, show embed code, and this is the code you have to copy and paste where you want to embed your chart. Again, your auto-updatable chart. So it's not a picture. I mean, it is a picture, but it is a picture that is generated on the fly every time you open the page. Okay, so let's try to add a dashboard page with this and maybe another chart. So pages, custom page. So the other pages were pages based on a table, only contacts in our case, but these are custom pages. You can have HTML custom pages, PHP custom pages, or pages that are just links. Okay, I want to create an HTML page. I call it statistics. I enable the page and I show the content of the page. This is, an HTML editor where you can modify your page. So I can say, okay, format, heading 1, here are my charts. Okay, and I paste here. Let me go to source code. This is the HTML. I paste here the code I copied before. Save. Voila. You can see the chart here. Okay. Let's save. So now we have the page, but again, we need to add the permission. So statistics, admin. The permissions for custom pages are very easy. or not. There's no granularity like in the other cases. You can just say no, yes, or yes, but don't show in menu. That sometimes can be useful. We say yes. Okay, statistics. I always have here my statistics page. And again, every time the graph is generated according to my current data. Okay. Okay, let's add some more statistics. Contacts, I don't know. Well, we can generate pivot table, but I will generate another chart. This time a pie chart, maybe 600 by 600. I want to show for each country how many messages we received. Okay, this is our pie chart. Let's copy the code. Let's go back to our page, statistics. So this is messages by month, and then messages by country. Okay, and this is our pie chart. Save. Statistics. All right. Of course, we can improve the layout. You can do everything you want because it's basically HTML with two snippet of code we copied from DaDaBIK and pasted in the page. Okay. Can we show this page in WordPress? Sure. We can do exactly the same thing we did before. So let me go back here. Permissions. So the statistics page, and for the public user, and we say yes. And in this case, yes, but don't show in the menu. Why? Because we want to have the link in the WordPress menu, not in the DaDaBIK menu for the public user. Okay? Because we need to show everything as it was, part of the WordPress website. We don't want to show additional links in the part we embed. Okay? So permissions are set. Now I copy the URL of this page. I'll go back to WordPress and I'll add a new page. Okay. Well, let's go back to our general menu, add new, statistics, and okay, DaDaBIK wrapper, URL, equal to this. Okay. Statistics. Okay, we embedded the statistics page in our WordPress website. Okay. So, probably last thing I want to show you is how to share the authentication. Okay, so okay, that was the last setting I wanted to show you. If I set WordPress authentication equal to 1, by default is 0, what happened? Basically, the user you are authenticated with in WordPress is used in DaDaBIK as well. So if you embed a DaDaBIK application into WordPress and you enable this, then once you are logged in WordPress, you are logged in DaDaBIK as well with the same user. That means that you need a user in DaDaBIK having the same name as the WordPress user you are using. In our case, we are already in that condition because the admin user I created in WordPress was WP DaDaBIK CRUD, and if you remember, we created the same user in DaDaBIK as well. Okay, so let's see what happens if I do this. Anyway, let me switch it back to 0 for a moment, because once you enable it, you have to start using WordPress to log in. Okay, but for the moment I want to do some stuff on DaDaBIK without the WordPress authentication, with the standard authentication, and then I'll change it back later. So we had this WP DaDaBIK CRUD user that was in the public group. To show you this WordPress authentication, I will do this. I'll change the group. So now WP DaDaBIK CRUD is an administrator, okay, not the public user anymore. So it's basically like root. I go back here and I remove the public user. So no public user anymore. And I enable the WordPress authentication. So now let's go back to WordPress. This is our contact us form, and that was the only page the public user could see. However, now the WP DaDaBIK CRUD user is automatically authenticated in DaDaBIK as well, and now is an administrator. So I will be able to see the whole application. Let me refresh the page. Voila. So I have my whole DaDaBIK application with the statistics, contacts, admin, and everything. Okay. So yes, that's everything I wanted to show you. So a short recap, what we have done. We have created a contacts table, actually 3 tables. We have created, without any coding, a CRUD application over these tables. We embedded a create form into a WordPress website. We created and embedded also some chart reports, some statistics. I also showed you how to share or how to use the WordPress authentication in DaDaBIK, how to share the WordPress authentication with DaDaBIK. Guys, this was a very simple application. You can create very, very complex applications with DaDaBIK, like ERP, CRM, warehouse management applications, help desk applications, basically any application based on data, having forms, CRUD, and reports, is a very good candidate for DaDaBIK. And you are not limited to the no-code approach. DaDaBIK is a low-code, no-code platform. That means that you can also manage, automate your very specific business processes. How? By injecting your own custom PHP and JavaScript code. So a lot of things can be done no code, but if you have specific things to do, you can use your own code. Example, you want to execute some custom PHP code when a user of your backend application inserts a new order. For example, you want to update your warehouse, you can do it. That's some code triggered by an application event, is called hook in the DaDaBIK jargon. You can write your code, and your code will be in a separate file respect to the the DaDaBIK core files. So even if you upgrade DaDaBIK, your code will remain untouched. Okay. Yes, that's basically it. The most important thing: how can you get DaDaBIK? Visit dadabik.com/download, and there you can get your license. Okay, so that's it for today. See you next time. Ciao.